Hello, I'm George Rodriguez, a senior business manager in Latin America and the founder of kPaGold, a consultancy focused on helping small and medium-sized enterprises make business decisions based on data rather than on guesswork. In practically every SME I walk into for the first time, I ask the owner the same question: when was the last time you saw a complete P&L for your company? And often the answer comes in the same tone: when the accountant closed last year's balance sheet. The problem is that if you only see the result months after the year has ended, any issue with margin, cost or cash has already become a chronic pain. It's like trying to drive while looking only in the rearview mirror without looking through the windscreen. A recent guide on monthly management accounts makes this very clear. It explains that management accounts are a set of reports prepared monthly or quarterly. Typically a P&L, a balance sheet, a cash flow statement, and a few key indicators produced for the manager, not for the tax authorities. And it puts it bluntly: running a business without management accounts is like running it blindfolded. I usually translate that into the Brazilian reality as a management P&L in 30 days. In other words, having every month within 30 days of the closing a lean package of information that allows the owner and the leadership team to quickly answer some basic questions. Are we making money, and where? Is the margin improving or worsening? Can the cash cope with the coming months? Can we hire, invest, increase stock? Which area is going off the rails? Today I want to organize this line of thinking around 4 ideas. First, why the annual P&L isn't enough to run the business. Second, what a management P&L should contain. Third, how to implement this routine within 30 days in an SME. And finally, the pros and cons of this discipline for owners and managers. Starting with the first idea, the annual P&L and balance sheet have their place. They meet legal requirements, they serve tax purposes, and they provide a consolidated snapshot of the year. The problem is timing. In practice, by the time the business owner receives these reports, the following year is already underway. Decisions have already been taken, and much of what could have been corrected in real time has turned into a missed opportunity. Articles aimed at SMEs repeat the same warning. Many business owners only see structured figures once a year, and this prevents them from reacting in time when costs rise, sales fall, or cash gets tight. Management accounting studies in emerging markets reinforce this idea, showing that without frequent management reports, strategic decisions end up being based on intuition, which damages competitiveness and long-term survival. In an environment like today's, with inflation still pushing costs up, historically high interest rates for SMEs and volatile demand, looking at the numbers only once a year is in practice giving up control of your own business. That takes me to the second point. What needs to go into a monthly management P&L? As a minimum, the package should contain a monthly management P&L with revenue, costs, expenses, operating result, and net profit, all compared against budget and against the same period of the previous year. This comparison makes it possible to see quickly whether the problem lies in revenue, in gross margin, in structural expenses, or in some extraordinary item. Alongside that, a summary balance sheet so you can see assets such as stocks, receivables, and cash, liabilities such as suppliers, banks, and taxes, and shareholders' equity in order to assess leverage and working capital. Without this view, borrowing and investment decisions are made in the dark. The third component is the cash flow and the liquidity position. Even in simplified form, a statement showing operating, investing, and financing cash flows, together with a view of the next 30 to 90 days, is essential for SMEs that live at the limit of their overdraft. Studies show that a huge share of small business failures stems from poor cash management rather than from a lack of profit as such. Finally, we have the business KPIs, indicators relevant to the company's model, such as margin per product or service, average ticket, bad debt, average receivable and payable days, and stock turnover. These indicators shift the conversation from a purely accounting language to a management language, and it is well worth including on the first page of the pack a short management commentary, a summary with the main highlights of the month, the material variances, the risks identified, and the recommended decisions. That helps people who are not from finance to grasp quickly what really matters. Now we come to the third point, which is where most people get stuck: how to actually put all of this into practice. A common mistake is to try, right from the start, to design a perfect, super detailed pack and then never manage to close it on time. The smarter path is to evolve in stages. The first step is to define the minimum viable pack. Based on management accounts best practice, choose the basic bundle that is already enough to make decisions on. A summary P&L, the cash position, and around 3 to 5 key KPIs. Nothing stops you from refining it later, but it is better to have a simple report every month than a perfect report that is never ready. The second step is to adjust processes so you can close quickly. Management accounts only make sense if they come out shortly after month end, ideally by the 10th. That requires discipline in booking entries by the last working day, a clear cutoff. Anything coming in after that belongs to the following month, and wherever possible, automating reconciliations and the integration between ERP, bank and accounting. Automation tools for SMEs have been gaining ground precisely to shorten this cycle, freeing up the finance team for analysis rather than mere data entry. The third step is to build the management ritual, because a report without a meeting turns into a PDF forgotten in the inbox. It is essential to set up a monthly meeting on a fixed date, for example in the second week of the month, with the right participants, meaning the owner or CEO, finance, commercial and operations, and with a clear agenda. Review the P&L, the cash and the KPIs, discuss 3 to 5 material variances and decide on concrete actions. Articles aimed at SME owners emphasize that management accounts create more value when they feed decisions on pricing, cost-cutting, prioritization of investments, and adjustment of targets. Once that cycle is running smoothly, the company can then move on to richer analyses, breaking margin down by product, channel, and customer, incorporating the annual budget and a rolling forecast, and integrating cash forecasting tools based on data and even on artificial intelligence. The important thing is to understand that the management P&L in 30 days is not an end in itself, but the basis for planning, testing scenarios, and anticipating problems. Finally, it is worth talking about the pros and cons of this discipline. On the positive side, the biggest gain is timely visibility. You can see trends in margin, costs, and cash while there is still time to act. That raises the quality of decisions because pricing, expansion, hiring and investment stop being purely intuitive and start being backed by facts. As a bonus, it also boosts the company's credibility with banks and investors, since recurring management reports convey control and maturity, something highly valued in credit and fundraising processes. On the other side, there are real challenges. This discipline demands rigor because closing the month quickly and with quality is not trivial and requires adjusting processes, culture, and often bringing in outside support. It also calls for a minimum investment in tools because it is hard to sustain this cycle with fully manual spreadsheets and disorganized data. And it can create some discomfort at first because more frequent figures expose margin and cash problems that were previously invisible, but the cost of not doing it is much higher. In a context where the vast majority of small businesses fail because of poor financial management and lack of visibility, the monthly management P&L stops being a luxury and becomes a matter of survival. I'm George Rodriguez, a senior business manager in Latin America, and if you want to turn your P&L from something that shows up once a year into a tool that guides the business every month, that is exactly the kind of journey we build at kPaGold with the SMEs we work with.